What life-altering things should every human ideally get to experience at least once in their lives? The night sky without any light pollution. It's quite sad how many people in cities don't get to admire the grandeur of our near cosmos. I don't usually call this out, but hot damn, thanks for the gold, silver, and my most upvoted post ever. Best cake day present. The reason knowing about space and our place in the universe is so important is that it fundamentally can change your perspective about everything. Being utterly lost or similarly in a hopeless situation, and getting yourself out of it with persistence and endurance. As it is, and I wouldn't wish it upon many people. Heartbreak. I feel like a lot of personal growth can stem from it. It also makes you way more sensitive and understanding of others who are hurting and suffering. Empathy is far more important and powerful than sympathy. A long road trip with friends. It's a bonding experience being in a little metal box with a group of friends for hours at a time trying to get somewhere together. You'll drive each other crazy. You'll make each other laugh. It's truly a wonderful experience. Eating healthy food for like 2 months straight. You never realize how itty you feel if you've been feeling that way literally your entire life. Also helps you realize how insanely addictive sugar fast food is. Once you go back to it, the cravings kick in immediately, at least in my experience. Living single and alone. It's a very specific kind of freedom but a touch of fear. I can do whatever I want. At the same time, if something bad happened, it might be a bit before anyone even noticed. Travel alone. Doesn't need to be long. But I think it requires a skill to be alone and feel comfortable about it. Not many people take the leap to go and or don't have the skill. It is very valuable to feel comfortable being alone, being in a crowd for example. Working in retail, major city emergency room, police, and fast food. It's always easy to assume we know better until we work there and deal with some ignorant people who just wanna act a fool with anyone and everyone. Being with a family member while they pass away. I know this sounds weird, but I have experienced both and had so much more closure when I was able to be there when my grandmother passed away, when my mom was in hospice and started declining and eventually passed away. The facility couldn't even be bothered to call me until the next day. I lived 10 minutes away, was the POC for all medical decisions and worked my entire life at the time around doing my best to be by her side when she passed. I still feel so cheated and pissed off about it. Edited. I wanted to thank everyone for their kind words. This comment really blew up. I'm so sorry that some of you have had rough experiences with losing loved ones, but I'm glad that it has sparked a discussion around death and dying. If anyone is having a rough time right now, I'm a good listener. Failure. You'd be surprised how many people constantly have their life fixed for them and never have to fail at anything. Failure allows us to learn coping skills, resilience, problem solving, determination. So many skills that many people today just don't have. Garlic bread. Go somewhere isolated enough at night that you can see the full skyscape, including the band of the Milky Way. Standing in front of a classroom trying to teach. Friends who teach in the elementary secondary system have the same complaints as professors. Everyone has a criticism, complaint or gentle suggestion to improve, but have no idea what is involved in getting all of the regulatory requirements. Getting up in front of a class and ensuring that the LOs are met in a way that satisfies federal, state and university administrators while also engaging the students. It's getting worse and worse. 2. Total isolation. I'm talking traveling out to a remote location far away from civilization and far away from anyone else. Just you and the world around you, all alone, and not another soul in sight. It's such a bizarre yet powerful feeling. Here you are, completely free from the constraints of civilization, free from your obligations, free from your routines. There's nothing holding you back now except yourself. You're experiencing life at its purest. I went on one hell of a bushwalk not too long ago that took me deep into a forest that very few people have been through. There was a moment where I was sitting on this fallen tree where it hit me just how truly far away and isolated I was. And with that, just how far away all my problems were too. Out here, it was just me and the trees. It really seems to put life back into perspective when you inevitably have to head back and re-enter civilization. The juxtaposition is something else. Failure, heartache, embarrassment, loss. Without them you can't grow. The feeling of having mastered something. Piano, poetry, writing, some video game, coding, anything really. There is a special self-knowledge that comes from having mastered something that everyone really needs to know. Life, not lustful, hormonal and temporary rushes of emotion. Deep, sacrificial, spiritual, hell or high water, to the ends of the earth love. To love someone like that and to be loved like that in return is the highest point of human existence. I would kill and die for my wife without a second thought. She knows this. And I know she would do the same for me. I never really lived until I loved. And specifically, loved like this. Complete vulnerability in the company of the person that you love. Letting that person really know you and taking the risky leap of putting yourself, with all of your insecurities, quirks, and naive hopes, in another person's hands. Go into a nursing home and volunteer to sit with some of the loneliest residents. Let them talk. Just listen. You'll learn so much and experience every emotion you know, and some you never felt before. I wish everyone got to experience lucid dreaming at least once. It's such an amazingly interesting state to be in just for the fact that you're inside of a dream. You're fully conscious that you're now someone else and in a body that isn't your physical body, yet you can touch and feel the dream world as if it was the real world. Edit. For people experiencing sleep paralysis or is scared of it, here's something I wrote for you. Edit 2. How to start lucid dreaming. Stand on top of a mountain. Spending a day alone with no plans. Completely at liberty, in a foreign city you've never been to before. Pack up, leave and start afresh in a whole new town. LSD, maybe not everyone, but most people. Also truly loving touch. Edit, cheers for the silver and gold mates. You are all beautiful humans. Fighting for one's life in some form. 3 years ago I was in a river for the swim portion of a triathlon. Because of heavy rainfall the week prior, the current was moving incredibly quickly. The race organizers eventually cancelled the swim portion of the event, but not until myself and about half the other competitors were already in the water. About halfway through the swim, the current became too much and I was being carried downstream despite my strongest attempts to swim against it. It was at that moment that I was literally swimming for my life. It was terrifying at the moment, but an experience I'm really glad I had. Edit. Thanks for the gold, kind stranger. Scuba diving. I promise you, it's a completely different world down there and it's not ours. You'll be amazed and maybe even get an understanding and a greater connection to our Earth and all the living things on this chunk of rock floating through space. Creation. For most people this will probably mean having a family and raising children. For others, and a large overlap with the child having crowd, this would mean taking some idea, some concept, and turning it into reality. Maybe it's making the video game idea you've had since you were a kid. Maybe it's writing a book, or producing a unique work of art. It could be designing your own home, or inventing something new. We as human beings have an urge to create things, and doing so seems to grant some kind of supreme satisfaction and joy. Living abroad for at least half a year. This is especially true if that other country has a completely different culture than your home country. If you are, for example, an US American, try to live in China for a while. They are always looking for English teachers and pay good money if you are certified and have experience. Win a fight, lose a fight, walk away from a fight. A total solar eclipse. I saw partial. It was cool. Saw total. It was life-changing. Just amazing. As a happily retired Mudica, retirement, I wish and hope every young person working today will someday get to enjoy a secure retirement while they still have enough life and health left. Such a thing is possible. But young people, you'll have to get onto your elected representatives too. I'll represent you and not spend all their energy representing billionaires who don't need further financial help from Congress or Parliament. or whatever the duck you have in your country. Jump on those methodicas like a pit bull attacking a sirloin steak and make them provide a social welfare system that assures you an actual retirement in your future. Don't let up on them. And hey, get on my lawn. I'll throw some burgers on the grill and we'll drink a couple of beers. Being the person in a room that everyone else looks up to, whether it be as a teacher or anything else. Just knowing I could make a difference in some kid's life was the best part of coaching tennis for me. This might sound counterintuitive to the question, but my answer is losing a career job. Now, hear me out. Most people think they're smart, good at life skills, and can generally get by. But when you lose your job, all of this is put to the test. It forces you to really pay attention to how you spend your money. It forces you to focus on bills and when they arrive when they're due. It forces you to polish up your resume, which is always a good thing to have on hand. It gives you an opportunity to change your life for the better. But most of all, it pushes you to survive on your own, giving you the confidence that you can do it again. Is it a fun period in life? No, not at all. It's scary as duck. However, once you find a new job, you continue forward with an appreciation for what you've got and for how fast it can all be taken away. Edit. You don't have to actually get fired to go through this process. The threat of being fired, having a period of layoffs where the future is unknown, and toxic work environments can all equally provide this same experience. The point, as cliche as this sounds, is that a calm ocean does not make for a skilled sailor. Sometimes the waves need to be choppy in order to help develop your character and ultimately your ability to adult. Surprised in all my scrolling to not see it. And maybe it's too cliche, but I would say being in legitimate love with someone. I've had it and lost it, and can easily say that I can live without the feeling. But now that it's gone, I have a strong desire to have that feeling back. Working in food service, humbling, and teaches you to not be a piece of it to people. Handling the dead. Military service provided me plenty of experiences. By no means was it pleasant or enjoyable, but it changed my perspective about the simple yet strict difference between alive and dead. Those experiences placed my own mortality at the forefront of my mind. A good dose of psychedelic drugs in a calming and facilitating atmosphere. It can change your entire perspective on life. Seeing the ocean. I was 19 when I first saw the ocean and it was such a beautiful and humbling experience. Sex with someone you love and they love you back. A really attractive person thinking you're really attractive. Psychedelics. Apart from people with mental problems etc. Two things come to mind. Standing somewhere very high and just absorbing the view. It's easy, especially in our urban cities and overdeveloped suburbs, to lose the sense of how big the world really is. People talk about big sky in places like Texas, but you haven't experienced big sky until you're standing a mile or 3 high and looking out over the planet. And being in an airplane does not count. Also, really experiencing the night sky, somewhere truly dark. Big bonus if you're doing both at the same time. A music festival. Preferably one that isn't massively mainstream. Essentially no responsibility for a whole weekend aside from enjoying yourself and not dying. I think each of us needs to go somewhere far away and live with very different people for a while, to learn that we are all deserving of the same basic respect. Hunger. Real hunger. There would be a lot more empathy in the world. A strong psilocybin mushroom trip. It will teach you things nothing else in this world can teach you. Words can't convey these experiences, but they are extremely valuable and I've come to believe everyone should experience it at least once. Edit. The best advice I can give for valuable psychedelic experiences is intention is everything. Have an intention to learn. Something to let go of, face or question, to answer. Also, wilderness is necessary to truly learn and strip away the ego in my experience. Skydiving. I went with some buddies fresh out of high school before we all went off to college, and I can honestly say it changed my life. It'll flip your whole perspective, and you'll get a taste of how small and insignificant everything is in comparison to the bigger picture. Plus, it's fun. Total solar eclipse. That 2017 solar eclipse was something incredible. I couldn't contain myself or even try to express what I was feeling in the moment that it happened. Seeing something that disrupts Mother Nature from her everyday activities that we are used to is absolutely breathtaking. For men, I would say be in the room at the birth of a child. It will change you. Poverty. You learn to appreciate the smallest things in life, and learn that at the end these are the only things that actually matter. Food, shelter, and a sense of safety. A real, fulfilling, honest relationship. Being sent on a trip around Earth's orbit to see what our world really looks like and how what we think makes us different is insignificant in comparison. Everyone should have the ability to travel outside their home country. It is mind-opening. In both positive and negative ways. You learn, you adjust, and you appreciate. I don't have a specific location, but travel can be both vacation and the exact opposite, and that's what makes it wonderful. Maybe we'll have less flat earthers too. Everyone really could benefit from therapy of any sort. You never really know how much you could be struggling with until you have someone tell you to your face. Scuba diving at a clear reef. Holy it. Going to an AA or NA meeting. Even if you're not an addict. Hearing people's stories forces you to remember that we're all human and very, very vulnerable. To truly experience and meet yourself. Finding out who you are without explanations or excusations. I have yet to accomplish it, but I have always contended that I will go to space before I die, no matter what. Travel, especially at an early age. I came from a very small South Texas town filled with exactly the kind of people that description probably calls to your mind. Luckily, my parents loved to travel, and almost always brought me along. I also went on one of the people-to-people student ambassador trips when I was in high school. That took me to several European countries, along with kids from a couple of other states. It was through all these experiences that I got to meet people from all walks of life, get new perspectives, and most importantly, take a good hard look at the kind of person my town was turning me into. I firmly believe that without getting to travel and amass these experiences, I'd probably have ended up as the exact kind of hate-filled townie that 70% of my graduating class ended up as. In an ideal world, everybody would have easy access to travel from an early age. I honestly believe everyone should at the very least travel out of state before they graduate high school. The perspective you gain from it is legitimately life-changing. Putting a USB cable in the right way up first time. Orgasm. Why is this post 2 hours old and no one has mentioned an orgasm yet? Yosemite National Park in CA, USA. A really nice, expensive course meal at a nice restaurant. Being unable to walk for a bit really lets you appreciate walking. Look up at the Milky Way at a non-light polluted area. Working in retail so you learn how to properly hate a stranger. Seeing their favorite band live in concert. Some of my best memories are of seeing Avenged Sevenfold, Slipknot, Linkin Park and Tool in concert. The unconditional love of a pet. Having a true bond with an animal is so amazing. If you've never experienced it before, then go on the back of a sports motorbike with someone who knows how to ride. Redefine what you think quick is. Anxiety. It's extremely hard for people who don't suffer from anxiety to understand behaviors of people who suffer from extreme bouts of anxiety because of brain chemical imbalance. I lived months of extreme anxiety due to gut issues, and that has brought me to sympathize so much more with people who have to struggle with this daily. 1. Watch an autopsy from start to finish. 2. See bodies burn at the crematorium. 3. Go to a hospice. A place where people have 6 months or less to live and talk with those who are willing to part with their wisdom. I had the privilege of being part of a class in college called Death in Perspective. It was during this class that I got to experience all the things mentioned above. It completely turned my thinking around. So many people suffer from death anxiety. After this class, I now have zilch. I'm not afraid of dying, but I am afraid of missing out on my children's life. There's a difference. I saw 2 dead bodies at the forensic center. One was a woman, 34 years old. The other was a 17-year-old boy. Two entirely different situations. Both died of gunshot wounds. The woman had it worse. She was shot 4 times in the stomach. The boy had 1 shot to the forehead. Instant death. The way the forensic staff went about their work nonchalantly really hit me. We had a guide who would make comments. It was suspected that this boy was set up. He and the driver went to the spot to meet someone and they got ambushed. The kid was shot as soon as the car stopped. The driver is in the hospital in critical condition but he's probably going to die. Then he went over to the woman. Shot 4 times in the belly by a jealous lover. We suspect. She walked out of her house and started yelling at a man. The man was yelling back and then 4 shots were heard. A mother ran out and called 911. I'm over here like. This all happened 20 minutes away from me and it happens every single day. The forensic examiners were breaking arm bones. Finger bones. Snap. Crack. The bodies were in rigor mortis. Seeing it in person is nothing like anything I've ever seen. They were so stiff. The doctors were struggling with the boy's arms, twisting it in all sorts of ways and you can see bone dislodge from the shoulder at one point. They had to break the fingers so they could effectively dig out from under the nails. Evidence is evidence. They have to do every single step, every body, every time. After the examining the limbs, arms, legs, hands, feet, they started cutting open the rib cage with the same tool they used to break padlocks open. Snap, snap, snap. The bodies don't move at all. They're dead. Any doubts you have about feeling pain after you die is evaporated. Then they spread open the rib cage. It is a gruesome sight. Fatty tissue looks like yellow opaque gelatin clumped up together. They start scooping blood out of the lungs. This is when the smell gets really bad and beats the perfume you spray on your mask. All I remember next is that they started working on the face. Yes, the face. They cut carefully around the face and proceeded to pull the skin right off. It made a sickly sound, squelching as tissue is torn away and the skull is exposed. I was stunned into silence by the brutal efficiency of these examiners and how the bodies aren't people anymore. They're just meat slabs. That was when my trip had to end due to time constraints. Enjoy your life. Relax. Loosen your jaw muscle. Let down your shoulders. Relax your face muscles. Breathe. Life goes away too easily and unexpectedly. I edited to add more details about autopsy.